We're often taught that weight loss is a straight 50-50 split between diet and exercise, but focusing exclusively on those two misses most of the picture. When we look at what actually determines long-term success, diet and exercise are only about a quarter of the work. Another 25% comes from the quality of your sleep, and the remaining half is simply doing what you said you would. This consistency requirement is exactly where almost every diet fails. It doesn't matter how perfect your meal plan is if you follow it once a week. Most of us try to bridge that gap with inspiration. You see a photo of yourself and feel a sudden spark to change. That feeling is powerful in the moment, but it's often gone within a day, leaving you right back where you started. Relying on that fleeting rush is a strategic error. When that initial energy inevitably fades, you're left with the temptation to say the 5 most dangerous words in dieting. I'll actually start dieting tomorrow. Escaping this cycle requires shifting from emotional motivation to a structured progression. Instead of waiting to feel like dieting, you establish a hyper-specific, measurable timeline. By setting clear checkpoints, like losing exactly 5 pounds by July 1st, you give your brain a concrete target to hit. This prevents the mind from getting overwhelmed by the total weight you want to lose and keeps you focused on the immediate task. Progression begins only when you replace the unpredictable high of feeling inspired with the certainty of these measurable checkpoints. Your willpower functions like a battery. It's a finite resource that is slowly drained every time you have to force yourself to make a difficult choice. By the end of the day, your ability to say no to a craving is significantly lower than when you woke up. If you keep junk food at the front of the fridge where you see it every time you're thirsty, you are constantly draining that battery. You're forcing your brain to fight a battle it will eventually lose once your willpower hits zero. Environmental engineering removes this drain. By boiling your eggs the night before and laying out your workout clothes, you turn your morning routine into a series of automatic actions. You aren't deciding to be healthy, you're just following a path you already built. To make a diet sustainable, you must make the healthy choice the path of least resistance. If the strawberries are washed and ready, and the junk food is difficult to access, the easiest thing to do is simply stick to the plan. Even with a perfect home setup, you'll face external pressures, like walking into a restaurant and seeing a menu full of 1,000-calorie meals. Avoiding these temptations entirely is a more reliable strategy than trying to out-willpower them once you're already at the table. Mastering your physical environment ensures you don't have to rely on your brain to make the right choice when your willpower is at its lowest. Underneath the habits and the environment lies the mathematical law of weight loss: calories in versus calories out. To lose fat, you have to create an energy gap. When you consume 200 to 300 calories fewer than your body burns for fuel, your system is forced to pull that missing energy from your stored fat. Achieving this gap reliably requires precision. You use food scales to measure grams, check nutrition labels, and round up your mental estimates. If you think a meal is 800 calories, logging it as 1,000 ensures that your deficit remains real, even if your math is slightly off. However, generic online calculators are often just a starting point. Individual hormones, like cortisol and thyroid levels, dictate your actual metabolic rate, meaning 2 people of the same weight might burn energy at very different speeds. If the scale hasn't moved after 2 weeks of consistent tracking, the system needs an adjustment. You either reduce your intake by another 200 calories or increase your physical activity to widen the energy gap. This mathematical approach is a universal law, but relying solely on manual tracking is difficult to maintain forever if you aren't choosing the right fuel. You can simplify the deficit by shifting your focus to food quality. By choosing foods that are naturally difficult to overeat, you can maintain a calorie gap without having to track every single number. These 2 portions contain the exact same amount of energy. Processed carbohydrates are calorie-dense and stripped of nutrients, which makes them easy to overeat while leaving you hungrier than before. Minimally processed foods provide massive volume for very few calories. Protein and fiber physically stretch the stomach and maximize satiety. By filling that space and taking longer to digest, they naturally eliminate the urge to snack without requiring a conscious effort to eat less. Physical activity acts as a multiplier for this system. Hitting 10,000 daily steps and lifting weights burns extra energy and builds the muscle that increases your resting metabolism. Sleep regulates the hormones that dictate your hunger and fat loss. When you are chronically underslept, your body struggles to manage blood sugar and cortisol, making it biologically harder to lose fat regardless of your diet. By prioritizing satiety and optimizing your sleep, maintaining a calorie deficit transforms from a daily struggle into a comfortable, effortless baseline. Eventually, you will hit a plateau where your efforts don't result in any visual change. This is the most common point where people give up, assuming the plan has stopped working. There is a biological delay in what you see in the mirror. Your body often prioritizes burning internal fat around your organs before it begins to shrink the external fat you can see. You are making progress, it's just happening where you can't observe it yet. This is why daily scale numbers are often misleading. They fluctuate based on water weight and digestion, creating a jagged line that can look like failure. Success is found in the week-to-week averages, which reveal the actual downward trend. If you persist through these invisible phases, you reach the final stage of the system, automation. After enough repetition, the brain converts these deliberate actions into subconscious habits. There comes a moment where waking up to exercise or choosing high-volume, healthy food requires no mental effort. The friction that made the first week difficult has been completely paved over. The ultimate victory of this system isn't hitting a specific weight. It is overriding your operating system until being fit is no longer a choice you make, but simply who you are.